Oh, I'm going to try this again. So I tried our live video a few minutes ago, and for some reason got completely cut off. So I'm hoping this works. If it does, I want to welcome you to Accelerating Leadership for Professional Women, our Facebook group, and to our weekly Training Tuesday. So tonight we have a fun topic. Tonight we're going to be talking about love languages and why the love languages. Because as silly as it sounds, our love languages really do impact pretty much all facets of our communications. And I wanted to talk with you guys about how, when we become aware of our love languages, how we use that to not only improve our own way of communicating at work, but really tuning into how other people communicate. So, thank you for joining me. I apologize that I'm a few minutes late. I've been having some technical difficulties tonight. And so, it seems like we're live and we're working now, so I'm going to take it. So, why the love languages? Gary Chapman created the 5 love languages. There's a quiz online, which if you haven't done, I encourage you all to go take it. You can take it for yourself to see, of the 5 love languages, which we will talk about, but of the 5 love languages, which ones kind of rank higher, are more important for you when it comes to hearing and understanding appreciation, right? Not just love, but recognition, appreciation, gestures of gratitude, of affection, of support. So if you have a partner, whether that partner is a work partner or a personal life partner, or however you look at it, I also recommend you have that person take the love languages quiz, because it will share with you how this person likes to receive affection, information, and love, recognition. Which is important. It's important to know not just how you like to be spoken to or spent time with, or however you receive that recognition, but how other people in your life, no matter what role they play, appreciate receiving the recognition. Why? Because it's how we listen. Our love language actually describes how we listen. So if you just Google 5 love languages quiz, Gary Chapman's site comes up, the quiz comes up. Depending on how much thought you put into the questions, it really only takes a couple of minutes to get through. And of the 5 languages, it ranks for you which ones are the most important to you versus versus least important. So the truth is that we feel seen, we feel heard, we feel recognized when we are spoken to in the language that we prefer. And at work, that translates into feeling recognized and respected for the work that we do. When we get the kind of recognition we're looking for in the language in which we are trained to hear it, in which we expect, I shouldn't say trained, in which we expect to hear it. So, I'm going to give you a personal example first, and then I'm going to talk later about a work example and how this shows up. But just to kind of level set for the love languages, right? When I was in college, was dating a very nice boy who I think we had been dating about 3 months when it came Valentine's Day. And my gift for Valentine's Day was a Waterpik shower head. Yeah, that was my Valentine's Day gift, a Waterpik shower head. The Waterpik brand is important because apparently that's a very good brand of shower heads. And if you're going to replace your shower head, I guess it should be with a good brand. But we were 3 months into this relationship, and I remember looking at the shower head that I had just unwrapped and thinking, oh, I don't know what message I sent this young man, but this isn't going to work. Like, this is, like, give me chocolates. Could have gone way cheaper with a box of chocolates, and I would have been way happier. So he was not speaking to me in my love language with that gift. Not only was the gift itself weird, but just the gift didn't say anything about how he knew me or what he, or anything he knew about me. Now, my top love language is quality time. I am all about time together, togetherness. And we'll talk about what that means at work. I didn't dump this guy right after the shower head thing. I thought about it, to be perfectly honest, but I didn't dump him. And about a year later, we were still dating. And I got a gift that I really appreciated, which was I'd gone away for the holidays to visit my parents. When I had come back, Um, he had decorated my entire apartment, and he had cooked a meal and he picked me up at the airport and brought me back to my apartment, and it was all decorated in Christmas lights and Christmas decorations, and there was a dinner waiting for me that he had cooked. Now that was speaking more to my love language, because that was all about, he had prepared for us to spend time together when I got back. He picked me up from the airport. And I think acts of service in a way. And like I said, we'll talk through all of them. But trust me, that was just a way more popular gift with me than the shower head. And the shower head was well intentioned. In fairness to him, I had been complaining that the water pressure in my apartment was terrible and I didn't like my showers. And he was fixing it for me essentially. So he gave me a shower head. All right, so hello everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Natalie Hahn. I am CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting, and tonight for Training Tuesday, we are talking about the love languages and how they apply at work. As always, I'd love for you to say hello in the chat. Tell me where you're from. I'd love to keep this dialogue a dialogue, so two-way, not just me yapping at you, so please use the chat box for that. I see that my friends Joyce and Rose are here, so hello and yay. Thank you guys for joining. If you guys, and I'm going to ask you to share, if you guys have taken the love languages quiz, those of you who are watching live, or even after if you watch the replay, share what your top 1, 2, or 3 love languages are, right? And start thinking about what that means for you. Not just in the gift giving world, like we're coming into the holidays, it's time for giving gifts, right? Which for some people adds a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure to feel like I have to give the perfect gift. But when you start tapping into what other people's love languages are, when you know what those are, suddenly it actually becomes a lot easier to know what gift is, right? What gift would be most appropriate or most appreciated, and you realize really isn't necessarily about the money that you spend, right? It's about how you thought and connected with that other person. And understanding people's love languages is really all about connecting with other people. So hello, I see Pamela's joined us. Jill, hey Jill. Jackie's here. Jackie, mine is words of affirmation, hands down. Yep, that one is, I think that one's third for me. My top 3 are fairly close, and it's, quality time is number 1, physical touch, and then words of affirmation are almost tied. And then acts of service and gifts, I think, are almost tied. It's the bottom 2. So, all right. So for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, welcome. We're here every Tuesday. We have a different training topic every Tuesday night, and we're here to have a conversation and just talk through any themes related to leadership and confidence and accelerating our careers and excelling in our careers, taking back our personal power and just living the life we want to live. So welcome. Say hello to the lovely ladies in the chat, and let's get started. The love languages. Okay. They do actually have applications at work. I'm going to talk through each one of the 5 and the applications at work. And then I'm going to share with you a story of a conversation I had with a client recently. And actually, it was this conversation that made me think about digging deeper into this. And I think I even mentioned this story a couple weeks ago to you guys. But it made me want to dig deeper into the love languages and really have us be conscious of and think through how we communicate, how we choose to communicate, and why that is. So let's think about each one. First of all, we're going to start with quality time because that's my favorite. So when you think about quality time, right, and you read the description in the love languages, quality time is all about time you spend with your partner, with loved ones. It's literally about the physical time you spend in each other's presence and connected. Now, at work, what does that look like, right? Our quality time is with our teams, with our boss, with our peers, and it looks like time we spend in meetings. But think about what happens then, right? It looks like getting information that we need to do our jobs. It looks like sharing what happened over the weekend, or how your kid is doing, or if your dog threw up. We do share those things. It looks like time spent solving a problem. It looks like a boss coming and sharing with you, hey, here's something we're working on. Here's a project that we're working on. Let's work this through together. So it is about spending time together. It's about a shared project or doing something together. It includes team building activities, It's a form of communication, right? Quality time is when we have time to explain, to show, to demonstrate. We can use quality time to share and enjoy the vision. What's the goal? What's the vision for the company? Like, what does that look like? The results of quality time is a sense of connection, a sense of motivation, right? And understanding of expectations. There's a lot more clarity around when we have quality time with the people that we work with. And it also builds trust. Because here's the thing, how many times have you had a boss or a peer and your biggest complaint is you can never get hold of them? Not responsive, can't get a meeting with them, can't get any time with them to work through the things you want to work through. It's really frustrating. And if you're like me and quality time is your top love language, it's more than frustrating. Like it kind of sets you over the edge. It's like, look, this is important. It's important because it's important to me. Because I would rather spend time with you working through it than getting a written note about it, for example, just translating that to words of affirmation, right? I would rather we spent the time just talking through it. I tell people all the time who work for me when they're frustrated, he's not responding to my email, he's not responding to my text, pick up the phone. Direct communication. When we spend quality time with people, it is all about building that connection. It's about building a sense of trust, a foundation for the relationship, and it breeds both motivation, because somebody who this is their love language, when you spend time with me, I feel like you're invested in me, like I'm important to you. It also breeds trust. I trust you now because you spent the time with me and I feel like I've gotten to know you. So that's quality time. Now, words of affirmation, right? How does that show up at work? Praise, right? We praise a coworker. We praise somebody on our team for doing a great job. We tell them that. We send an email to the entire company about how we did. I saw here that, I just want to check this. Joyce said, words of affirmation, quality time. I have enough stuff. Yeah, I know. Me too, right? Tell me how you feel and spend time with me. Exactly. And that's just it. Between words of affirmation and quality time, what are we getting? We're getting feedback, right? We're getting that sense of appreciation. In words of affirmation, the cool thing about words of affirmation is it's not only the giving of praise, it's not only the verbal or written recognition of a job well done or work that's been accomplished or just something that's happened. It's also a form of listening. When you think about words of affirmation, we're affirming verbally that we heard you, that we see you, that who you are and what you do or how you do it matters. So our listening skills actually come into play a lot when it comes to words of affirmation, because we need to be listening for that other person and what's important to them, to know how we're going to praise them, what's important to them when we are delivering the praise. Now, the result of words of affirmation is validation, right? For the person receiving it, it's validation. Oh, good. You know, that then I did a good job. Then I got it right. It's also motivation. Oh, yay, they loved my work. I'm on to do more. And it is the feeling of being heard and being understood. So, and you're going to find a lot of these overlap, but so it's not always in the result that the difference is. It is definitely, though, in the delivery. Because somebody who's about quality time, like me, my preference is going to be to speak with you face to face if we can, over Zoom if we can, right? But to have a more physical sense of connection, quality time is about physical connection, as opposed to just getting an email that says great job. Not that I'm going to turn down an email that says great job, but that would be my preference. People with words of affirmation, you don't need to call them, but if you post on LinkedIn how much you appreciate and value them, they're going to love you forever. All right, let's talk about acts of service. So acts of service are when we help somebody, when we take our time and energy and we are doing something for someone else. So we might be helping somebody with their project, with work, with a task that they needed to get done at work, but they didn't have time for, so you just kind of swoop in and help them with that. It can also be forms of support at work. So I remember one night working really late. We had a project that had that had a pretty hefty deadline on it. And it was literally a work around the clock project. We were at these offices in downtown Boston, and we were there for 2.5 days. And I am not lying. We slept there 2.5 days. It was a pre-IPO project. Acts of service was when my CFO went out and got everybody milkshakes at 2 a.m. because we were still working. Act of service brought us sustenance. When somebody brings you a cup of coffee in the morning, that's an act of service. Appreciate that. Acts of service can be sustenance. Acts of service can also be the proactive kind of cheerleading and support, giving you a ride, getting you places, right? Anything they're doing to support your efforts can be interpreted as an act of service. And I see Rose wrote something here about acts of service. Let me see if I can see that. Sometimes, like I said, guys, the comments don't come up quite properly. Oh, acts of service is number 1 for Rose. Then physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation, quality time. Perfect. Right. So so with Rose, for example, she would rather have you come do something that relieves her stress. So if Rose is working on a project and she's got 3 things to do and she does not have time to do all 3, she's going to get stressed. If you come in and say, you know what, Rose, of those 3 things, let me take that one off your plate. I got you on that one. You have a die-hard friend, fan, and coworker for life there. Whereas with Jackie, with words of affirmation, she's going to tackle all 3, and you're going to send her an email afterwards going, you were amazing how you did that. That was just rock star quality work, right? How we recognize and receive praise is different for each of us. Acts of service also inspire. Right? When you see somebody do something for someone else, it can be inspiring for you to give too. I want you to think about that commercial. I think it's TD Bank maybe that has that commercial, or maybe it's an insurance company. One of them has that commercial where you see somebody do a good deed and somebody's watched the good deed. And so then they go and do a good deed and somebody else watched them do the good deed, right? So it's contagious, it's catching. But this is what acts of service can do. When you see somebody do something for someone else, it can be inspiring. Also builds trust. I know I can rely on you to help me get the job done. I know I can rely on you to support me as I'm going through my task list, handling this project, whatever it is. Now, gifts. Gifts are probably one of the most misunderstood love languages. They are not a negative. It is not being materialistic. Gifts signify that we are visual and tactile, and we appreciate symbolic representations of affection, of respect, of recognition. So at work, when we give gifts, right, you get the annual fruit basket from a client or from a vendor. It's a recognition that they value the relationship, right? Every Christmas, you get the fruit tower. It's a thank you. It's a gift of recognition. If you're at work and your boss comes by and says, you know what, you worked so hard last week, take Friday off. That's a gift. It's a gift of time, but it's a gift. You are getting recognition. You are given something in return. That's what the trade-off of the recognition is. It gets misinterpreted a lot more in our personal lives. Right? When we feel like we're being materialistic, we feel like, but I just want, I don't know, name something, the piece of jewelry, the shoes, the chocolate, the giant chocolate box, whatever it is that you want. And then we feel guilty because it's a material thing. And we forget that that material thing has meaning to us. There's nothing wrong with something material having meaning for us. We judge that really harshly in our culture, in our society, but think about that. We all have things that we have collected over the years, we've picked up in our travels, that are heirlooms that were given to us. They are physical things that have meaning. There is no reason why a gift can't do the same, right? It is a physical thing that has meaning. When I was working about 15 years ago at a company where we did a lot of acquisitions, what they would do every time we finished an acquisition is we would get something called a tombstone. You see them in corporate offices all the time, right? They're basically little glass plaques that just recognize your work. And actually, if I were in my other office, I would have a couple that I would show you. But they're just little glass plaques that say, in recognition of, and it's the project you worked on or the acquisition that we worked on or whatever. Um, it was a gift. It was a gift to say you gave, 150 hours of your life to this project in 2 weeks, and we appreciate that. Gifts give us validation. It is a physical, tangible reminder that what we did, whatever our work was of value, was recognized. It's also a sense of motivation. Every time you look at that gift, whatever it was, you are reminded, my boss or my team, they value me. They recognize me. I'm going to do more work like that because I want more of those things, right? So gift is not a dirty word. So don't, if gifts comes up high on your list of love languages, do not feel like you have to apologize for that. Do not feel like that's a bad or a negative thing. 'Tis not. It merely shows that you value symbols, tangible reminders of things that are important to you. Now, physical touch is the fifth love language. And I thought about that because I thought, okay, in today's modern work environment, one, HR gets involved, things are considered inappropriate, and two, mostly on Zoom these days, so there's not a whole bunch of physical touch going on. But I want you to bear with me on this one because I want you to consider when we are in the office, when we are working with teams of people whom we like, whom we know, right? And we're working on something that's intense. We're working on a project that has a deadline and we're stressed, whatever the situation is, right, at work. There is a place for physical touch. First and foremost is just the introductory handshake. Hello, my name is Natalie. I am shaking your hand. That physical touch is a form of recognition. When you shake somebody's hand, you are touching them and looking them in the eye, and you are saying, I see you. I see you. I hear your name. I may not remember your name, but I see you. It is definitely a form of recognition. So there's one for physical touch. We use physical touch at work when we do put a hand on a coworker. What's it for usually? Reassurance, comfort, support. Sometimes you're sharing a joke, right? So not all forms of physical touch are evil, even though in the workplace we kind of have to watch that a little bit. So I just wanted to say it still has a place. It still supports a sense of connection and a sense of trust with other people. When we physically touch somebody else, we create a very real, very instant bond, even in a casual touch, right? Because we've done that, right? You've shaken hands with somebody and immediately kind of done, ew, right? It's true though. Not somebody you wanted to have a physical touch with or somebody who you definitely did not connect with well. We don't want to touch them. Physical touch is used in all relationships, including work ones, as a way of showing connection, reassurance, support, and comfort. So while that one you might have to play a little more carefully at the office, it's still a very viable love language, personally and professionally. Okay, so we went through the 5 and kind of the high levels, how they can show up in the work environment and what the result is when we leverage these love languages. I want to tell you a quick story, and I know that we're on time, but I also started late because of my little technical gaffes here. So I'm going to go a few minutes over just to warn you, because I want to tell you this story because I think this really highlighted, and it was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about, high fives. Thank you, Joyce. Yes, that's another thing people do, personally and professionally, right at the office. Well done, high five, fist bump, same thing. So, client of mine, and I think I shared this a couple weeks ago, but now I want you to hear it in the context of what we just talked about, was talking about how she wasn't sure that she was doing a great job at work, that she didn't feel like she was getting the feedback she needed about whether the work she was doing was valued. And she felt that way, yeah, an elbow nudge, Jackie, exactly. She felt that way because she was fairly new to the company. The role she was in was a newly created role for her, so she already went in feeling like she had to prove that what she brought to the table and what she did was meaningful to the company, had value to the company. So she kind of felt like she had something to prove. But her comment to me was, I'm just not hearing it. I'm not getting the feedback that they value my work or they understand what I'm doing. And having talked through with her already some things that were going on in the office, I said, okay, hold on a minute. What are you looking for? And she said, well, I'm just looking for somebody to say, hey, good job, right? Attaboy, well done. You know, what you're doing makes a difference. What you're doing matters, is going to help us grow. You know, but basically looking for that direct words of affirmation, direct words of affirmation that say, you are a rock star, rock on. And she wasn't hearing it. And I thought, okay, fair enough, she's not hearing it. But in other things that she had described to me about what was going on at work, I said, well, I think that if we looked for your affirmation, right, for the validation that you're doing a good job, if we looked for that in some other places, I think you would see that it's there. Because what was happening at her office was that the company founder had removed from her organizational structure, had actually removed her boss and given her direct connection now to the founder of the company. So a layer of organizational structure and what was really an obstacle in her path had been removed. So her organizational reporting had changed for the better. That was one thing that happened. Two, they announced at a company-wide meeting that they were giving her staff to support her new domain, her new department. She was going to be able to hire a bunch of people to do more of the work that she was doing. And three was they had taken her off another project where she had vocalized that she didn't think this project was a great use of her time and experience, that basically it was a waste of her time. That she'd do it if they wanted her to do it, but she had looked at the project and it was kind of a waste of a time, and they said, no, you're right, off the project. So thinking about that, no one in those three things said, great job, keep going, attaboy. But what they did say was, you are important enough that we have moved people out of your way. You are important enough, and the work you do is important enough to the company that we are adding people to your team, so we're investing in you. And you are important enough, and the work you do is important enough that we are removing anything that distracts you from getting the job done. So what she got were acts of service, or maybe gifts, right? What she got was other people in the company making things happen to free her up to focus on what she loved doing, right? The role that she loved doing, and what was of value to the company. So the reason I raised that story is because her love language was words of affirmation, but the company's culture was different. The company's culture wasn't a culture of attaboys and emails that cheer people on, but it was a culture of people who will move things around to make things happen for you. So when you think about your own love language and how you communicate, right, and when you're aware of that, it's easier for you to pay attention to how other people like to be communicated with. It also gives you an opportunity to sit back and look at the company culture. Like I said, I worked at a company once where I got all kinds of these plaques, of these tombstone awards for work that I did. Do I value the tombstones? You know, I frankly would have rather have been taken out to lunch and had some quality time and some quality food with somebody. I'll take the tombstone. It's a lovely gift. It's a nice reminder on my bookshelf of projects that I've worked on, but it wouldn't have been my first choice, right? So sometimes the culture of the company supports a type of recognition. If it's not your primary love language, then it's up to you to go figure out, right? And recognize, okay, not my primary love language, but this is the culture of the company. Or this is the approach of my boss. This is how my boss does things. So Joyce says, we're listening to what you think is best. Exactly, and they're acting on it. So she was heard. She was heard, she was recognized, just not recognized in the way that she had been looking for it. She'd been looking for that email that said, you're doing a great job. What she got was a bunch of actions, which again, you could look at acts of service or as gifts that said, keep going, do more. We think it's great. All right, ladies, thank you for sticking with me tonight and for talking through the love languages. If you haven't done the quiz, go do it. Like I said, just Google 5 love languages quiz. Check it out, see where you fit in the love languages, what appeals to you, and then just start observing the people around you at work to see what do they respond to. Would they rather have time and lunch with you? Would they rather get an email or A certificate of recognition for the work that they've done? Would they rather have a plaque or a gift of some kind? What is it that resonates with the people working around you and with the culture that you work in? As always, if you'd like to have a chat about your love languages, how it shows up at work or any work situation, I'd love for you to sign up for a Dirty Girl Mini Dig. 15 minutes for us to have a conversation digging into what's going on with you and how you are getting to your goals. It's a free conversation. It's just 15 minutes of coaching on something specific for you to get you one step closer to the goal that you would like to achieve. So if you drop the word dig in the chat, I will reach out to you. We'll schedule time to have that conversation. In the meantime, ladies, if you haven't gotten it yet, get your workbook. I just put this out a couple of days ago, I think, on our group page, right? Get the recognition you deserve. There is a section in here on the love languages. I did include it as part of the workbook. But this is the 5 blocks that we have to smash through in order to get the recognition we deserve at work. Recognition and respect, because for a lot of us that goes hand in hand. If we're not getting the recognition that we think we've earned, then we feel like we've been disrespected. So this workbook was created and designed just for you to work that through. So drop the word recognition in the chat if you want your copy of the workbook. Drop the word dig in the chat if you would like to have a free one-on-one conversation about getting you closer to your goals. All right, thanks for joining me, ladies. Thank you, Rose and Jill. I appreciate it. You guys all have a great night, and I will see you on our next Training Tuesday.